My name is Libby McMillan. I'm the EC for Greenville 3, and I'm brand new to all this. I just wanted to get involved after being frustrated in November. Surprise, I'm still pretty frustrated. So, my question is one that I hope the Rules Committee will listen carefully to, because I'm curious how deep dive you guys did into the votes of the alternates. It was my understanding that at county convention, a third-party vendor, I believe is the term that was used for who was going to manage the election. However, I had an alternate delegate in my precinct who received a phone call sometime after 10 o'clock from a woman, and she said, "I'm calling you because you're an alternate delegate, and I'm supposed to call you to get your vote tonight," but I'm paraphrasing. She said, "It doesn't really matter how you vote. It's not really even necessary that you vote because the lead is so great. At this point, it won't matter." So when he told me that, I was horrified because I had reached out to him to say, "Hey, why don't you get involved? This is, it was awful." That was his very first experience. It was my first experience as his precinct leader. And I asked him the next day, I was thinking a little more clearly, I said, "Did you save the phone number?" And of course, they had it in their phone, because they had called a cell phone. So we did a check on the phone number, and I'm not gonna name a name, but it was not a person from a third-party vendor. It's somebody from the GOP who's pretty well established in the party. And we know her name, and we have her phone number, and that seems to be pretty far from third-party vendors.
I can help you with part of that. I know how part of this works. So the concept is when I tell you and our report says that a third-party vendor was hired to provide their software to oversee the election. That's true that they did that. They had their software. The fee that was paid by Greenville County included the use of that software as well as a certain number of their professionals at X dollars an hour for the number of hours they worked to provide the service. So I think that I have a direct response to your question and give it to you. And you have to understand the difference between a live convention, which is all I ever attended until COVID. I've only been to a total of 2 virtual conventions, well 3 if you count that state convention where we were actually in this room. But up until then, they've all been in person. And the way in-person conventions work, delegates show up at a certain time, and if you're not there by a certain hour, usually like 10 o'clock in the morning, for example, then if you're not present, then they call the first alternate. You call as many alternates as you need to until all the delegate slots are finished and are filled, and then usually the voting of substance takes place after that is happened. For the virtual convention, the 7 to 9 o'clock window was the time for the convention. Around 9 o'clock is when, if you had not obtained your ballot as a delegate, it started going out to the alternate list. So the list of names is provided to human beings here in Greenville, whether it's Nate, whoever's working for Nate, whatever. It was those people, including someone that you just alluded to, who would have been responsible for calling the alternate to say, "Hey, we need to get this so that you can get a ballot before." That was always the way it was supposed to work. They weren't supposed to say, "It doesn't matter whether you vote or not because your candidate's already lost," or whatever. But in terms of that individual making the call, that would have been anticipated and appropriate.
But wouldn't it have been more appropriate to have a third-party group making those calls?
Perhaps, but it wasn't set up that way. I didn't plan it. I'm just telling you the way that system was. That's the way the system was set up.
Well, Rules Committee, hope you listen. Thank you very much, by the way, for all your time and working on this. I can't imagine how many hours that took.
It was a lot.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm John Burris. I'm president of the Dove Tree District, and